What if I told you that the doubts you have aren't really yours? What if they weren't even yours to begin with? What if they were planted in your mind, not because they were true, but because they were repeated to you over and over again? Years of hearing what can't be done. Years of watching people settle. Years of seeing strong individuals shrink and fit into boxes made by fear. What if I told you that every time you hesitate, every time a voice in your head says, wait, or, hold back, that voice wasn't even yours? It was borrowed. Programmed. Repeated. But not created by you. Because deep down, you weren't made to doubt yourself. You were made to create. You were made to rise. You were made to win. Not someday. Not when everything is perfect. But now. And if you stay with me and really listen, really focus, something inside you will shift. It won't just be a thought in your head. It will be who you are. What I'm sharing with you isn't just motivation. This is a mental reset that will help you break free from the doubt that has been holding you back. When it's over, you won't even recognize the person who once thought small was your only choice. Because doubt is a habit, and habits can be changed. But belief? Belief is a choice. Belief is remembering who you were before the world told you to shrink. Today, we're going back to that version of you, the one who knew greatness was within reach, the one who didn't need proof to take the first step, the one who believed victory was inevitable. Let me tell you something most people never hear: the person who believed in themselves is still inside of you, waiting, watching, wondering when you'll stop listening to the old voice and start acting like the builder you were born to be. So say this with me now: I wasn't made to doubt. I was made to win. Say it louder: I wasn't made to question. I was made to decide. Say it until the hesitation is gone: I do not wait for courage. I move anyway. Because today, we're not just talking about belief, we're making it a law. And once belief becomes the law of your mind, everything else, the body, the voice, and the results, will follow. Stay with me, and let's burn doubt out of your identity for good. Let me be clear: you weren't born with doubt. No one is. Doubt is not part of your soul. It's something you learned. It's a disease that grows when it's fed. And the world? The world is full of feeders. You were born with curiosity, hunger, and fire. A child doesn't wonder if they can walk, they just try. They don't ask for permission to explore, they just go. They fall, rise, scream, and reach, not because they're sure, but because they haven't learned fear yet. Doubt isn't natural. It's learned. It's taught. It's repeated. And by the time you grow up, you've been told, directly or indirectly, that your power is dangerous, that your fire needs to be controlled, that dreaming is for others, not you. But here's the good news. If doubt was learned, belief can be built. And building starts with remembering who you were before the world shaped you. It starts with one simple act: rejecting the idea that you need to be hesitant just because others around you were. Let me show you how this worked for the men I studied. Take Henry Ford, for example. He didn't have a silver spoon in his mouth. No fancy education. No money. But he refused to accept doubt. When the world said his idea for an affordable car was crazy, he didn't stop. His engineers, more educated than him, told him it was impossible to make an 8-cylinder engine in one block. What did he say? Make it anyway. Over and over, they failed, and Ford repeated, make it anyway. That wasn't luck. That was belief. A belief so strong, it didn't back down in the face of impossibility. Ford trained his mind to follow his vision, not the world around him. He unlearned doubt and replaced it with decision. And that decision didn't just change his life, it changed an entire industry. Or think about Thomas Edison. He didn't fail once or 10 times. He failed over 10,000 times in his search for the electric light. 10,000 moments when doubt could have taken over. But Edison didn't listen to doubt. He had something stronger: identity. He didn't say, maybe I can. He said, I am the one who will. And that identity was his shield. Every failure didn't break him. He kept going because his belief wasn't based on what he saw. It was based on repetition. He believed it would work, and so it did. Understand this: belief isn't a feeling. It's not something you find by accident. It's built, just like a bridge is built, through small, daily decisions. You choose to believe, even when you don't feel like it. You repeat your belief, even when your old self says otherwise. You keep moving forward like the person who knows, even when doubt still lingers, until that doubt has no space left to exist. That's what Andrew Carnegie understood. He didn't see belief as optional, he saw it as essential. He once said, if a man does not command his own mind, someone else will. And that's exactly what doubt is: it's a sign you've given up your power. You've let doubt take control. But that stops now. Now you're awake. You understand where doubt came from. It wasn't yours. It was given to you. And now, you're giving it back. Say it with me: doubt is not mine. I refuse to carry it. Say it again: I do not live by hesitation. I live by decision. This is how you start, not by feeling powerful, but by speaking power, by walking with confidence, even before that confidence fully shows up. The mind doesn't listen to logic, it listens to repetition. And every time you act like a creator, speak like a leader, move like a winner, you are building belief. The person you were meant to be is already inside you. He's just waiting for the noise to stop. He's waiting for the command to rise. And this is that moment. Let's talk about the most powerful moment in a man's life, the moment he makes a decision so clear, so final, that his old self can't exist anymore. Here's a truth most people don't realize: identity isn't something you find, it's something you decide. You don't become great by accident. You declare it. You don't wait to be confident. You decide that from now on, confidence is who you are. You don't wait to be fearless. You decide to act, even when fear is present. And that decision changes everything about who you are. Every man lives within an identity. The problem is, most live within one they never chose, one shaped by fear and other people's opinions. But the great men I studied did one thing first: they decided who they were, not based on their circumstances, but based on their vision. Look at Henry Ford. Before he was an industry giant, before he changed transportation, Ford made one simple decision: he would build a car for the common man. That decision changed everything. He stopped thinking like a mechanic and started thinking like a builder. And when the world doubted him, when the experts mocked him, Ford didn't back down. Why? Because his identity was already decided. Thomas Edison did the same. He didn't stumble into inventing the light bulb. He made the decision long before anyone believed in him. He said, I will light up the world. And every day, he moved toward that goal. When others called him foolish, when failure was constant, when results didn't show up for years, he kept going. Because in his mind, the result was already certain. Let me make this clear: results follow identity, not the other way around. If you think you need to prove yourself before you can claim greatness, you've already lost. The people who rise are the ones who decide to rise first, without proof, without approval. Even Abraham Lincoln wasn't led by public opinion. He was led by his decision. He didn't need everyone's approval. He had already made up his mind about freedom, unity, and dignity. And because his decision was final, nothing could stop him. Now, it's your turn. You must decide who you are. You must declare it. You must choose your identity: no more hesitation, no more doubt. Say it aloud: I am not a man of hesitation. I am a man of action. And don't say it just once. Say it until your subconscious hears it so often that it becomes your truth. This is how belief becomes identity. This is how decision shapes destiny. Every morning, before the world speaks, you speak. Declare who you are. Write it. Repeat it. Align your actions with it, even when you don't feel it. Because how you act will shape how you feel. You are the one who forms your identity. The emotion will follow. The men I studied, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Lincoln, they all understood a simple, sobering truth: if you leave the bridge standing, fear will always tempt you to cross it. The phrase, burn the boats, has become cliché, but it was not cliché for those who lived it. Let me take you to a true story. Hernando Cortés, the Spanish conquistador, landed on the shores of Mexico in 1519 with a handful of men to face an empire that vastly outnumbered him. And what did he do upon arrival? He burned the ships that brought them there. Not because he was reckless, but because he understood human nature. When the mind believes there's a way out, it never fully commits to the way forward. Though I do not romanticize conquest, the principle remains timeless. You must destroy the exit if you want to force destiny to open the door ahead. This principle is not only true in war, it is true in your daily life. Henry Ford did not say, "We'll try this automobile idea, and if it doesn't work, we'll go back to making carriages." No. He staked everything when he committed to the Model T. He shut down production of every other car his company was making, against the advice of his board, against the fear of his peers. He simplified. He streamlined. He focused. And in doing so, he created a revolution in manufacturing. Why? Because there was no retreat. Ford didn't seek comfort. He sought completion. Thomas Edison, too, had no plan B when he set out to create a functioning light bulb. He faced more than 10,000 failures, but each attempt was made with the resolve of a man who had already sealed his fate. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is not the voice of a man who left the door open to quit. That is the voice of a man who locked it, threw away the key, and set fire to the room behind him. Andrew Carnegie, as a young immigrant with nothing but a job in a telegraph office and a mind full of ambition, decided early that poverty would not have the final word. He did not pursue wealth as a wish. He pursued it as a necessity, not for greed, but for impact. He devoted himself to mastery of industry, management, communication. When he committed to steal, he committed with everything. He did not dabble. And because of that, he rose. What is your retreat? Be honest. Is it the job you keep as a safety net, even though it dulls your soul? Is it the voice you silence because you fear what others will say? Is it the plan you never start because you keep telling yourself you'll do it when the timing is better? These are not strategies. These are shelters for fear. And as long as they exist, you will never walk with full power. You cannot act like you were meant to win if your energy is split between building and retreating. You must commit fully. And you must prove that commitment by eliminating the exits. It's easy to say, "I'm all in." It's another thing to remove every other option. That's what the greats did. Abraham Lincoln did not entertain compromise when it came to preserving the Union. He knew the risks. He knew the cost. He knew that war would scar the nation. But he also knew that preserving the soul of America required conviction without loopholes. And so, with ink and blood, he wrote his stand into history. You must now do the same. Metaphorically and mentally, burn the retreat. Let fear scream. Let doubt panic. Let the old self cry out in protest. But do not go back. Delete the maybe. Delete the someday. Delete the if this doesn't work, I'll. Those phrases are permission slips for failure. If you were meant to win, and I believe you were, then act like it by removing every option except victory. Even when it's slow. Even when it's lonely. Even when no one claps. Especially then. Because once you make the decision and seal it with action, something shifts. Your mind stops negotiating. Your energy stops scattering. Your spirit sharpens. And the world starts to bend. Say it aloud, there is no retreat. I have made my decision, and the door behind me is gone. I move with finality. I act without escape. These words must not be spoken once. They must be repeated daily until your body forgets what it felt like to doubt. This is not about drama. It's about discipline. Burning the bridge is not loud. It's not showy. It's the quiet decision you make before dawn that today, again, you will not run. And if you hold that line long enough, something incredible happens. Fear stops talking because it knows you're not listening anymore. There is a voice in every man's mind that determines the quality of his life long before the world ever lays a finger on him. It is the voice that speaks when no one else is around, the one that whispers when the door closes, when the lights are off, when the results don't come, and when the crowd has gone quiet. That voice is not always kind. It is not always supportive. It is not always true. But it is always present. And if you do not train it, it will train you. It is a process called autosuggestion, the deliberate and repeated feeding of the subconscious mind with instructions so clear, so consistent, so emotionally charged that they become identity. The subconscious mind does not reason. It accepts whatever is repeated to it with emotion. And herein lies your greatest threat or your greatest weapon. Let me show you what this means through real lives. When Henry Ford famously said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right," he wasn't trying to be clever. He was revealing how he built his empire. Ford didn't have the most knowledge. He didn't hold the most degrees. He didn't master every detail of his business. But he trained his inner voice to say one thing over and over: it will be done. And because he repeated that, his subconscious went to work making it reality. But here's the mistake most men make: they speak carelessly to themselves. They allow doubt, hesitation, worry, and worst of all, sarcasm, to run on repeat. And they wonder why their progress always stalls. The subconscious mind doesn't understand humor. When you joke about being lazy or failing or being stuck, it hears those thoughts as instructions. It installs them. It obeys them. And soon, you do too. Thomas Edison, after thousands of failed attempts to create a working light bulb, was asked by a reporter how he kept going. He replied, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." But understand what that really was. It wasn't just optimism. It was programming. It was a mental script so strong, so repetitive, that failure could not take root. Every time he spoke those words, he trained his inner voice to keep moving forward, and the voice obeyed. Andrew Carnegie was relentless when it came to discipline. He told the young men he mentored to write down their main goal and read it aloud every morning and night. He believed that a man could become unstoppable simply by repeating the right idea often enough. Not whispered. Not silently read. Spoken out loud. Why? Because the voice you speak becomes the voice you hear. And the voice you hear becomes the voice you believe. And what you believe shapes your reality. So let me ask you, what have you been telling yourself when no one's around and results aren't showing? What do you say? "I'm tired. This probably won't work. Maybe I'm not the one for this. I'm just trying." These aren't harmless words. They are weapons turned inward. The more you say them, the more they become a part of you. But here's the good news: you can change that script. It starts with discipline. Each morning, before the world gives you its version of reality, you must give yourself yours. You must look in the mirror and declare, "I act before fear speaks. I do not wait. I do not delay. I am the kind of man who keeps his word, even when no one is watching." And again, right before bed, when your mind is soft and your subconscious is open, speak your goal. Speak your identity. Speak your next move. Why? Because the mind remembers what it hears last. This isn't just motivational talk. This is real brain science. It's how your brain turns thoughts into habits. How habits turn into instincts. And how instincts turn into your destiny. Even Charles M. Schwab, one of the most optimistic leaders of his time, didn't just rely on luck. He trained his focus. He avoided negative talk. When others around him panicked, Schwab reframed the situation. His mental strength didn't come naturally, it was built through repetition. Now, it's time for you to create your own script. A few strong phrases, spoken with power, repeated with conviction. Not the generic affirmations you find in a book. Your words. Your beliefs. Words that come from your heart. Let me help you start. I do not explain my power. I execute it. My actions train my mind to believe. I do not wait for motivation. I move with discipline. Write them down. Say them out loud. Repeat them every day. Here's what will happen: the voice inside you that used to hesitate will become strong. It will sharpen. It will speak clearly, even when things feel uncertain. And when that happens, everything changes. You'll stop talking yourself out of action. Instead, you'll talk yourself into moving. You'll stop entertaining excuses. You'll interrupt them with a new mindset. You'll stop doubting your identity. Instead, you'll reinforce it with every action. This is how you kill doubt. You don't wait for it to leave. You drown it in truth. You replace the old voice with a new one. And once your subconscious accepts that new voice, doubt will knock, but your mind won't even hear it. Because the new voice is too focused, too decisive, too powerful to listen to anything else. I challenge you to make this your daily ritual. Not just once, but repeatedly. Repetition is the key to becoming who you're meant to be. Every man, at some point, faces a critical decision: will I follow how I feel or will I follow what I've decided? Most men, without realizing it, live by emotion. They act when it feels good, hesitate when it's hard. They speak when they feel confident, and hide when they feel uncertain. Then they wonder why their life isn't what they want. But the builders, the doers, the great figures of history, they didn't live by emotion. They didn't let fear or opinions guide them. They moved with faith. They didn't wait for courage to show up. They acted before courage came. They trusted their decision more than their feelings. Let me make this clear: faith isn't some mystical force. Faith is a mindset, a muscle, something you practice. It's built day by day, through repetition, decisions, and the refusal to back down. And most importantly, faith is a choice. You don't need a reason to believe. You simply decide to believe, and the reasons will follow. Henry Ford is a perfect example. He was told his ideas were impossible. That people wouldn't want a car. That an 8-cylinder engine in one block couldn't be made. But Ford responded each time with one simple command: build it anyway. Why? Because his belief wasn't based on the outside world. It came from within. He built faith through repetition, through moving forward, and refusing to listen to anyone who said it couldn't be done. Ford didn't always feel confident, but he always led himself like he was. Thomas Edison, too, failed thousands of times on his way to inventing the light bulb. But he wasn't broken. Why? Because he had already decided that success was inevitable. Once he made that decision, he didn't need external validation. Every failure was just proof that progress was happening. That's what faith is, not an emotion, but an identity backed by action. Now, let's be clear: most men confuse emotion with guidance. They think if something is hard, it's a sign to stop. If it feels uncertain, they think it's the wrong path. But listen closely, discomfort is not a red light. It's the price you pay for greatness. Abraham Lincoln understood this. He became president during one of the darkest times in history. His decisions would shape the country's future. His cabinet was divided, and the nation was at war. But Lincoln didn't hesitate. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation not because it was easy, but because he believed in the mission. He moved on faith, not emotion. That's what made him great. Emotion may feel real, but it often lies to you. It speaks the language of your past, of your old doubts. But faith? Faith speaks from your future. It speaks from the man you're deciding to become, not the man you used to be. That's why I stress repetition so much. Because repetition builds faith. The more you speak belief, the more you act on it, the more it becomes your default. And when belief becomes your default, emotion loses its power over you. So, I ask you, who is leading your life? Is it the person who acts on vision and purpose, or the person who waits until he feels ready? You must decide today, I will lead with faith, not with feelings. That means showing up even when you're tired, speaking truth even when you're nervous, and following through even when results haven't shown up yet. Why? Because faith isn't about evidence, it's about conviction. Let me give you a simple way to live this out. Every morning, declare your beliefs out loud. Not what you feel, but what you choose to believe. I act before I feel ready. I'm not a slave to emotion. I command my emotions. I walk by faith because the man I am becoming is already real. Then move immediately. Build faith not by thinking about it, but by acting as if it's already yours. And yes, resistance will come. Yes, the old thoughts will appear. But they're just ghosts. You don't negotiate with ghosts. You replace them with fire. This is the same process Charles M. Schwab used when building U.S. Steel. He wasn't the most experienced, but he made decisions quickly. He moved decisively. When Andrew Carnegie asked him to lead the company, Schwab didn't ask for time. He said yes and figured out the details later. That's how momentum is built. You act, and your mind will follow. You move, and fear loses its grip. So, train yourself to move without needing to feel perfect. Say this now, I don't trust the voice of emotion. I trust the voice of purpose. I don't wait to feel powerful. I act until I am powerful. I lead myself. I don't follow the wind. Repeat this every morning. Let it sink in. Let it replace the voice that once told you to hesitate. Let it become the soundtrack of your actions. Because the man who leads by emotion will always be led by fear. But the man who leads with faith? He becomes unstoppable. He becomes inevitable. Now let's continue, because faith must always be matched by action. Not random action, but decisive execution. There's a law that governs all progress: indecision is the seed of fear. It's not failure that paralyzes a man. It's not rejection. It's the refusal to decide. And let me be clear, no man who hesitates can ever lead himself. He'll be led by circumstances, emotions, and the opinions of others. But the man who decides and moves, he becomes a force. Every successful man I studied made decisions quickly and changed them slowly, if at all. They didn't sit in endless deliberation. They didn't wait for all the facts before they acted. They decided, and then let the path reveal itself through action. Look at Henry Ford. His engineers told him it was impossible to make an 8-cylinder engine in one block. They failed, and kept coming back expecting Ford to give up. Instead, he looked at them and said, "Produce it anyway." Not once, not twice, but every time until it was done. Ford didn't hesitate. He decided, and because he decided, the world bent to his will. That's the law: the world yields to the man who is certain, not the man who is clever. Now, what's stopping you? Make your decision now. Move. Even if you don't know the full path. Even if you're uncertain. Decide and act. Because clarity comes from movement, not from hesitation. You must make a decision right now. Doubt ends here. Not tomorrow. Not little by little. But now. Let me show you how the greats handled it. Abraham Lincoln, the man who kept a divided nation together, didn't live without fear. He faced ridicule, hatred, and attacks. He buried his own child while in office. He led through chaos. But each day, he chose to believe. He affirmed his purpose in solitude. He wrote letters that were never sent. He walked alone. In those quiet moments, he reinforced his mission. Not with certainty in the outcome, but with certainty in who he was. He knew he was the one who had to carry that burden. Andrew Carnegie, born with nothing, stood among giants who ruled the world. He didn't have a prestigious background, nor any special connections. What he did have was a clear sense of purpose. And with that purpose, he drowned doubt in repetition. Every day, he wrote and spoke his mission until the idea of failure was no longer part of his mental landscape. That's not arrogance, it's mental discipline. It's how a boy from a telegraph office became the wealthiest man in the world. Henry Ford faced constant opposition from the press, engineers, and even the government. But he never let their doubt penetrate his mind. Why? Because his internal belief was stronger than any external noise. He repeated what was possible to himself until that belief became unshakable. And that unshakable belief built empires. You are no different. The only thing separating you from these men is what you allow to repeat in your mind. Doubt isn't real. It's just a shadow, a recording, a loop that plays over and over in someone who forgot to change the track. So, now is your time to overwrite it, not with optimism, but with identity. Say this aloud: I do not negotiate with doubt. I replace it. I do not let fear speak twice. I silence it with action. I do not shrink. I do not flinch. I do not rehearse weakness. The more you rehearse belief, the more your nervous system will accept it as normal. It doesn't matter how long you've doubted or how deeply you've been stuck in your rut. Repetition rewires everything. But you must know this: doubt will not go away quietly. It is an addiction, and it will fight to survive. It will return in the quiet moments, in times of fatigue, and in the spaces between your progress. But when it does, you do not engage. You go back to your script. You go back to your command. You return to the truth you are now installing. I do not live in hesitation. I move with fire. My belief is louder than my fear. My repetition is my shield. My identity is my weapon. Let this next line sink deep into your soul: you are no longer allowed to be the man who doubts. That version of you is gone. He's buried. We don't entertain his voice anymore. We don't make room for his excuses. We don't check in on him when things get tough. He had his chance, and he wasted it. Now, it's your turn. The man you're becoming walks differently. He doesn't wait for the perfect moment. He moves because he decided he would. He doesn't need to see the whole plan. He trusts the power of action. He doesn't fear failure because his identity is built on movement, not on the outcome. So, say this with power now: I don't need more time. I need more fire. I don't entertain doubt. I enforce belief. I don't wait. I dominate. Let your new identity take hold through repetition, through daily decisions, and by refusing to let the old voice return. This is your moment, not just to hear these words, but to repeat them until they become who you are. Until your subconscious no longer recognizes the old you. Until doubt has no place to exist. Because the man who wins doesn't need 1,000 answers. He only needs to know who he is and walk as though the victory is already his. So walk forward, and don't look back. The old you isn't coming with you. Let him fade away in silence. Let the new you rise in his place. We end here, not with applause, but with purpose. Repeat these words. Repeat your belief. Repeat your identity. Until the old self is gone, never to return.